So everybody talks a lot about chicken of the woods, and now that we're a little further into fall, hen of the woods, or maitake. So I thought we'd go out and look around a little bit. I've been finding a few, but because of the real dry weather we've all been having, it's not been as good as I'd like, but it's also still pretty early. So actually what I found here is a dry little stream bed, and there's not a lot of oaks here, but there's a lot of large oaks here, and I'm going to follow the stream bed, and with the idea that, you know, more moisture is going to be retained in those areas, and we'll see what we come up on. I've actually got one really nice, clean, pretty young one, and a little bit of really nice fresh chicken and hen. But let's see what we find when we get on the bed here. So we ran on a creek bed, and we're in a little drier area, and it's fairly thick, as you can see, with some buckthorn and other stuff. But right up ahead here is a small maitake that sadly is past prime, but there it is, and you can see the white spores already have been dropping for a while, and it's quite a small oak tree, which is, I mean, not that you never find them by small oaks, obviously you see one here, but a pretty small hen. So as always, you know, day late and $1 short. Should have been here last week. Here's a couple more. They were a little larger, but, you know, obviously you can see they're well past their prime. And another one over here. So it's all about timing. We'll just have to keep looking. Sort of interesting that this very decomposed log is actually sporting a couple maitakes here, which I don't see a lot of. Not when they're that old and crusty. But again, we're too late on these. But interesting nonetheless. And crashing through more brush is a pair of them over here. One of them is obviously very far gone, but there's a small, nice, fresh one there. So we'll add that. And here's a nice young one. You know, it's I suppose a little larger than a softball, but boy, they're nice when they're like that. You don't have to worry a whole lot about dirt. And hopefully there's a few more around here. This is a new spot, and we're seeing some good sign already. So here's another fallen oak, and if you're like really careful, otherwise you walk by it. Right in the corner there's a hen, and that one looks to be in pretty good shape. And on the other side here is one that's, again, that we're too late for. We're actually pretty close, but again you can see the white covering on the ground around it, which is the spores that it's dropping. And you know, it's a little bit brittle, and I suspect if we look a little closer, it's probably got quite a few bugs to it. It's not terrible. Probably make stock out of it if you want, but probably not one for the dinner table. So I'm walking along, and then it's like, holy bracket, Batman! Is this? This is certainly the largest bracket I've ever come across by far. I mean, my God, that thing is absolutely enormous. It's got to be, oh, I suppose 3 feet across, 2.5, and another slightly smaller one over here. You see my basket fits perfectly fine with room to spare. So that's really something. And I just glanced down to see a few wild oysters growing here. They look like oysters from a distance, but now that we get up, actually they're chickens growing here. Just small clusters. And, you know, past prime, but quite a few. Mental note. So, check this out. That is like a huge group of Entolomas, all growing in the cavern created by this fallen tree. And you can see they're all pretty much all mature. They're starting to drop their spores, which is that all sort of a pinkish red hue. You can see on some of these, but they're all over. They get quite large. Here's another group over here, and looks like somebody's been helping themselves. So, and here we find next to them what we're really after, which is often referred to as an aborted Entoloma. There's a lot of dispute ongoing about that, but it's also believed to be a parasitic example of the honey mushroom being taken by I believe by the Entoloma, although it all gets rather confusing. So take your pick, either an aborted Entoloma or a parasite involving a honey mushroom. But those are edible, and lots of people like them. These are really a neat looking mushroom too. There's a really great example of how color the spores. There you go. Lots of shrooms, even in all the dry weather. There's more of the aborted form. And over here, it almost looks like you can begin to see something a little dastardly going on there. And next to it, both the aborted and non-aborted. So we're continuing to find a lot of aborted Entolomas, and here's a few more chicken. They're still looking pretty good. Although I have chicken coming out of my ears, so I don't know that I'll take that. But you can see some Entolomas there on the ground. And there's some nice big ones. If we look over here, here's a pretty good example, and very easy to pick, barely attached. They really don't have a gill structure. They're sort of pithy inside and slightly pink. They're spongy, but not too spongy. The one thing about them is they are takes a little time to kind of get down the when to pick them part, but real delicious. And here's another one. We're a day late and it's $1 short again. Those are some mighty chickens. That had to have been, I bet you that's 30 pounds of chickens. And well, we're pretty late. We're a couple weeks late. If you look down below here, you see a whole lot of Entolomas. These are very small Entolomas, and then the aborted forms down here that just look like sort of masses. There's some Entolomas right there. Yeah. And right next to it are little honey mushrooms, which sort of leads to that theory that I was mentioning about whether or not this is actually a parasitic action taking place. So we've been out actually looking for maitake and aborted entolomas mostly. Although I have found some chickens as well. But the honey mushrooms are really out. And thought you'd get a kick out of, as I walk down this hill, seeing just how many there are. Here's another huge group. Going all the way around the tree. And over to our left here is another, this is a good sized oak in front of me, so you can imagine how many mushrooms that is. That's really incredible. And if we look over here, another just enormous patch, just completely surrounding the tree. And groups all around here, smaller ones. Look at this enormous patch here. I mean, these are all old, as you can see, but the sheer numbers are pretty amazing. And it's like the fishing adage, Is there the wrong day, the day after, the week after? But plenty of honey mushrooms to go around. There's another giant section of old ones. Let's see just how many there are. And I could go on and on, but you get the idea. If you look around, lots of dead wood. Lots and lots of dead wood. There's some entolomas growing as well. But even in this dry weather, they're still out here, so pretty cool.